Grief does not only take away the people we love, it rearranges the furniture of our lives. We must decide whether to live in the empty rooms or to make them our own again. Monica Harris never thought 50 would feel like this. In the books she used to read when the children were small, romances she borrowed from the church library, self-help guides from the Goodwill shelf, 50 was supposed to be a time of renewal. A woman of her age, they promised, could finally breathe. Her children would be grown, her marriage steady, her body still able, her wisdom finally valued. She would plant flowers in the spring and watch them bloom by summer, free from the storms of survival. But those books had not prepared her for widowhood at 47. They had not prepared her for a husband's breath that grew shallow by the week, for hospital rooms that smelled of bleach and last chances, for signing papers that made her both executor and single parent overnight. Now, 3 years later, 50 felt like two different lives stitched together by exhaustion. The house on Cedar Street looked the same from the outside, a small, sun-bleached clapboard with a leaning porch and a mailbox that tilted to the left. Inside, though, everything bore the fingerprints of her labor. The kitchen counter was a battlefield of bills, envelopes stacked beside a half-eaten sandwich. A laundry basket leaned against the hallway wall, half-folded, waiting for her next free minute. The clock ticked louder than it used to, maybe because there was less laughter to drown it out. Monica worked 2 jobs, day shifts at the local nursing home and evenings cleaning offices downtown. Her hands were calloused from bleach, her back stiff from lifting, her feet swollen more nights than not. But she rarely complained. Complaints didn't pay tuition. Complaints didn't keep the lights on. Her daughter, Aaliyah, often said, "Mama, I don't know how you do it." And Monica always answered the same way. "You just do. When it's for your children, you just do." Aaliyah was 18, all bright eyes and notebooks, with a mind sharp enough to slice through any room. She wanted to study literature, maybe law. She had already been accepted to 3 universities. When she smiled, Monica saw the echo of her late husband's gentleness, a reminder that love could outlive a man. But her son, Darius, was different. At 23, he should have been on his own path, steady or stumbling, but moving forward. Instead, he lived in the basement, drifting between temporary jobs and longer stretches of unemployment. He carried his father's broad shoulders, but none of his father's steadiness. His voice, once eager with dreams, had grown heavy with excuses. "Ma," he would say, leaning in the doorway while she folded laundry, "you got a little cash for me? Just till next week." It was never just till next week. Monica loved him, of course. A mother's love didn't vanish because of disappointment, but she felt the weight of his requests more than the weight of her mop. Love, she had learned, could bruise you just as easily as it could comfort. Every morning began the same. Monica rose before dawn, the silence of the house pressing on her shoulders. She would brew cheap coffee, the kind that tasted like burnt earth, and sit for 5 quiet minutes at the kitchen table before the day claimed her. The fridge hummed, the clock ticked, and sometimes, if she closed her eyes, she could almost hear her husband's voice. "You're stronger than you think, Mon." But when she opened them, there were bills staring back at her, and 2 children, grown but not grown, waiting upstairs. One morning in late September, the sky still bruised with night, Monica looked out the window and thought about how grief had rearranged her family. Darius was sleeping in the basement, the thump of his music from last night still echoing in the walls. Aaliyah's textbooks were spread across the couch, her essays typed and printed, ready for the future. 2 children, 2 directions, one pulling her backward, one pulling her forward. And Monica, standing in the middle, was stretched like rope. She thought about the sacrifices she had made, the new shoes she never bought, the vacations she never took, the sleep she gave away night after night. She thought about the hours she had spent in hospital corridors, praying for her husband to breathe just a little longer so their children could say one more goodbye. Sacrifice had been her second language, but now she wondered if her children understood the cost. That evening, after her second shift, Monica came home to find Darius sitting at the kitchen table. His arms were crossed, his face a mask of impatience. "Ma, we need to talk," he said. Monica sighed, hanging her coat on the chair. She could tell from the tone what was coming. "I need help with rent," he said. "You live here," she answered. "I mean my car note, Ma, and I got some stuff piling up. Just a few hundred. You know I'll pay you back." She knew he wouldn't, not really. But she also knew the tug inside her chest would not let her refuse outright. It was the same tug that had made her work extra shifts for his basketball shoes in high school, the same tug that had kept her up all night sewing his Halloween costume when she had the flu. "Darius," she said softly, "I can't keep doing this." He frowned. "What else you got to do? You working 2 jobs, right? What's a little more?" The words stung. He said them like her struggle was endless, like she was an ATM with no limit. Before she could answer, Aaliyah walked in, her backpack slung over her shoulder. She looked from her mother to her brother, reading the tension in the room. "Darius, leave her alone," she said sharply. "She's doing enough already." Darius shot her a glare. "Stay out of it, little girl." "I'm not little," Aaliyah snapped. "I see how you treat her. Always asking, never giving. Daddy would never." "Don't bring him into this." Darius barked, slamming his hand on the table. The room fell silent. Monica's heart pounded. For a moment, she saw not her children but 2 strangers standing on opposite sides of her love, tearing it in half. That night, when the house was finally quiet, Monica sat alone on the porch. The streetlight flickered, moths circling the glow. She thought about the boy Darius used to be, the one who held her hand on the first day of kindergarten, the one who cried when his father missed a game, the one who once promised he'd buy her a big house when he grew up. Where had that boy gone? And what would become of the young woman inside, the daughter who believed in her so fiercely? Monica wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders and whispered a prayer into the night. Not for wealth, not even for rest, just for the strength to keep walking. To keep being both mother and father, anchor and sail, sacrifice and hope. Because grief had taken her husband, but it had left her children. And as long as they needed her, whether in gratitude or in demand, Monica Harris would not surrender. The argument that night did not vanish with sleep. It lingered like smoke, clinging to the curtains, seeping into the furniture. Monica rose at dawn, as always, her body heavy with the residue of words spoken too sharply and silences held too long. She moved quietly, careful not to wake Darius or Aaliyah, but inside her chest the storm was still alive. She brewed her coffee, staring at the thin steam curling upward. She remembered her husband, James, sipping from his chipped mug in the same kitchen. He would kiss her forehead before leaving for work at the auto shop. "We'll be all right, Mon," he used to say. He always believed that love was enough to stitch everything together. But love alone had not stopped his lungs from collapsing, had not kept the cancer from spreading. Love had not paid the medical bills. And now, she wondered, was love enough to keep her children from tearing each other apart? Aaliyah came down first, her hair tied in a messy bun, her sweatshirt half-zipped. She dropped into a chair and exhaled. "Morning, Mama." "Morning, baby." Aaliyah reached for the cereal box, pouring a small portion into her bowl. She always ate light in the mornings, her mind already racing ahead to assignments and exams. Monica watched her with quiet pride. She saw in Aaliyah a strength that came not from ease but from responsibility, the kind of strength forged in households where children grew up too fast. "Don't listen to Darius," Aaliyah said suddenly, without looking up. Monica sighed. "He's your brother. He's selfish." The word landed with a thud. Aaliyah's eyes were sharp, but beneath them Monica glimpsed hurt. This was not just anger, it was disappointment, the kind that young people rarely forgive. "He's lost," Monica said softly. "People get lost sometimes, doesn't mean they can't be found." Then he better find himself soon, Aaliyah muttered. Because you can't keep bleeding for him. Before Monica could answer, heavy footsteps thudded down the stairs. Darius appeared, shirt wrinkled, hair uncombed, his phone in hand. He didn't greet them. He poured coffee into a cup and leaned against the counter, scrolling. "You got an answer yet, Ma?" he asked without looking up. Monica's stomach clenched. She had hoped to delay this moment, to let the morning pass in fragile peace. "Darius, I don't have anything extra right now." He looked up, his jaw tightening. "You working 2 jobs, Ma? Don't tell me you ain't got nothing. It goes to bills, to groceries, to your sister's tuition." "There it is again," he snapped, his voice rising. "Always her. Always Aaliyah this, Aaliyah that. What about me? Don't I count? Or did Daddy's death make me disappear?" Aaliyah slammed her spoon down. "You make yourself disappear, Darius. You don't work, you don't try, you just take. Daddy would be ashamed." The words hung like glass shards in the air. Monica froze. She saw Darius's face harden, a mix of rage and something more fragile, hurt, raw, and boyish. "Shut up," he said, his voice low. "You don't know nothing about Daddy." "I know he worked," Aaliyah shot back. "I know he never begged Mama for money. I know he didn't treat her like a bank." Darius's hands curled into fists. For a moment, Monica feared he might lash out. She rose quickly, placing herself between them. "Enough," she said firmly. "Both of you." Aaliyah's eyes watered, but she bit her lip, collected her books, and stormed out the door. The slam echoed through the house. Darius stared after her, breathing heavily. Then he turned to Monica. "You gonna let her talk to me like that?" Monica shook her head slowly. "She spoke the truth, Darius. Maybe not kindly, but truth doesn't always come wrapped in kindness." His jaw worked. He muttered something under his breath, grabbed his keys, and left, the screen door banging behind him. And just like that, Monica was alone again. The day stretched long. At the nursing home, Monica bathed residents, spoon-fed soup, and changed linens. The work was physical, but it was the stories that wore her down. Old men who talked about children who never visited. Women who stared out windows, waiting for someone who never came. Monica saw pieces of herself in those stories, the ache of being needed only when convenient. She carried that ache home like a bruise. That evening, she found Aaliyah at the kitchen table, textbooks spread out, earbuds dangling around her neck. "You okay, baby?" Monica asked. Aaliyah shrugged. "I just hate him sometimes." Monica sat down, brushing her daughter's arm gently. "Don't hate your brother. Hate what he's doing, but don't hate him. Hate makes chains, and you're too young to carry that weight." Aaliyah's lips trembled. "But he hurts you, Mama, and you let him." The truth stung. Monica had no defense. Love had always been her excuse. Love for Darius, the boy she once rocked through sleepless nights, the boy who used to draw her pictures of superheroes and write "best mom" in shaky letters. How could she cut that boy off? How could she tell herself he no longer existed? "I just don't want him to ruin us," Aaliyah whispered. Monica looked at her daughter's eyes, so much older than 18, carrying fears she shouldn't have to carry. She thought of James again, of how he used to say, "Take care of them, Mon. Make sure they take care of each other." But love, Monica realized, could not be forced. It had to be chosen. And right now, Darius was choosing differently. Later that night, the house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Monica sat at the dining table, unpaid bills spread before her. She picked up a pen, trying to balance numbers that refused to be balanced. Rent, utilities, medical debt, groceries, tuition deposits. It was a puzzle with too many missing pieces. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion pressing down like a weight. Outside, she heard the rumble of Darius's car pulling into the driveway. The door opened, footsteps staggered inside. He reeked faintly of beer when he walked past her. "Where you been?" she asked quietly. "With friends," he muttered. "Friends gonna pay your bills?" He shot her a glare. "Don't start, Ma." She wanted to plead with him, to remind him of the man he could still become. But the words felt wasted, bouncing off a wall too thick to crack. Instead, she folded the bills back into their envelopes and whispered, "Good night, son." He didn't answer. As Monica lay in bed, staring at the ceiling's cracks, she thought of her family like a house with a weak foundation. One child building upward, reaching for light, the other drilling holes in the walls. And she was the one holding the beams together, arms outstretched, body trembling. How long could she hold it all before something collapsed? The silence did not answer. Only the clock, ticking steadily toward another dawn. 2 weeks passed, each day blending into the next. Monica worked, cooked, stretched her dollars, and prayed for peace that never seemed to arrive. The house felt heavier than it used to, as if the air itself had learned how to carry arguments. One Thursday evening, after finishing her cleaning shift downtown, Monica walked to the bus stop with her lunch pail swinging at her side. Her back ached. Her shoes pinched. The night air smelled faintly of fried food from the diner across the street, and her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since noon. The diner was busy, neon lights buzzing above the windows. Monica rarely treated herself, but tonight hunger won. She stepped inside, slid onto a corner stool at the counter, and ordered the cheapest thing she could, a bowl of soup and a half sandwich. That's when she noticed him. The man 2 stools down looked out of place. His suit was expensive, dark navy with a tie loosened just enough to show he'd had a long day. Silver hair swept neatly back, gold watch catching the light. He was reading something on his phone, but every so often he glanced around the diner with a kind of quiet curiosity, like he was trying to remember what normal life felt like. Their eyes met briefly. Monica offered a polite smile, then looked down at her soup. She didn't have energy for small talk. But when the waitress poured him coffee, he said, "Rough night." She blinked, unsure if he was speaking to her. He nodded toward her tired hands wrapped around the mug. "Just a long one," Monica answered. He smiled faintly. "I know the feeling." She wanted to leave it there, but somehow the words kept coming. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe the way his voice carried no judgment. "I work 2 jobs," she admitted. "By the end of the day, feels like I've been carrying the world on my back," tilted his head. "The world or your family?" Monica's throat tightened. "Both." The waitress returned, setting down his plate. He reached out a hand. "Richard Caldwell." She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was firm but gentle. "Monica Harris," she said. They spoke between bites of food. She told him a little, just enough, about her children. A daughter on the edge of college dreams. A son she no longer knew how to reach. A husband buried 3 years too soon. Richard listened, really listened, in a way people rarely did anymore. Most folks nodded politely, then turned back to their own troubles. But he leaned in, asking questions that showed he cared about the answers. When the check came, Monica reached into her purse, but the waitress waved her off. "It's taken care of." She frowned. "I didn't." Richard raised a hand. "Please, it's nothing." "It's not nothing," Monica said firmly. "I don't need charity." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Fair enough, but consider it kindness. I find kindness doesn't survive if we keep refusing it." Her defenses softened. She exhaled, gathering her things. "Well, thank you for listening at least." "Of course," he said, smiling. "You deserve that much." A week later, Monica saw him again, this time not at the diner but at the nursing home. He was standing at the front desk, speaking with one of the administrators. His presence filled the lobby, though he didn't seem to be trying. "Monica," he said warmly when he spotted her. "Small world." She raised her brows. "You here visiting someone?" "My aunt," he explained. "She's in the long-term care unit." He glanced around the hall. "I'm here often, actually. I like to check in." There was something about the way he said it, calm, steady, without the showmanship of people who flaunted their good deeds. Later that shift, when she wheeled a resident back from the dining room, she passed Richard again. He was sitting beside his aunt's bed, reading aloud from a book, his voice low and soothing. Something inside Monica stirred. Here was a man who carried wealth on his wrist but still bent down to hold an old woman's hand. The third time they met, it was deliberate. Richard was back at the diner and Monica almost walked past, but he caught her eye and motioned to the seat beside him. "I was hoping I'd see you again," he said. She chuckled. "That makes one of us." They talked longer this time, about work, about loss, about the children who keep us awake at night more than bills ever do. When Monica mentioned Aaliyah's college acceptance letters, Richard's expression lit up. "She must be extraordinary," he said. "She is," Monica replied softly. "But tuition," she trailed off, shaking her head. He studied her, not with pity, but with thoughtfulness. Then he said, "I have resources, Monica, and I've been looking for ways to use them where they matter. If you'd allow me, I'd like to help." Her eyes widened. "Help? What do you mean?" "A scholarship, discreet, no strings. Just a door open that deserves to be opened." Monica stiffened. "Mr. Caldwell, I can't accept that. People will talk. My son?" "Your son doesn't get to decide what your daughter earns," Richard interrupted gently. "And people will always talk. Let them." She stared at him, torn between gratitude and pride. For years, she had carried her family on her shoulders, refusing handouts, determined to survive on her own terms. But Aaliyah deserved more than survival. "I don't know," Monica whispered. Richard leaned back. "Think about it. My offer will still be here tomorrow, and the next day. Sometimes, Monica, strength isn't just carrying everything alone. Sometimes it's letting someone else lighten the load." That night, Monica lay awake in bed. Darius's music thumped faintly through the floor. Aaliyah's lamp glowed under her door as she studied. Monica thought of tuition bills stacked on the counter, of her daughter's dreams, of her son's demands. And she thought of Richard Caldwell, a stranger who had looked at her not as a burden but as a woman worth helping. For the first time in years, Monica felt a door crack open, a door she hadn't even realized was still there. The question was, would she step through it? The offer hung in the air like perfume, sweet, unexpected, and impossible to ignore. Monica hadn't said yes, but she hadn't said no either. She carried Richard Caldwell's words with her through the week, turning them over while scrubbing floors, while spooning soup into frail mouths, while watching her daughter bent over textbooks late at night. By Saturday, Aaliyah noticed. "Mama, you've been quiet," she said, setting down her pen. "Is something wrong?" Monica forced a smile. "Nothing wrong, just thinking." "About what?" "About doors," Monica said slowly. "How sometimes life closes them, but maybe, if we're lucky, someone helps us open another." Aaliyah tilted her head, puzzled, but let it go. She was used to her mother's riddles, the way Monica spoke like the world was always teaching lessons. But Darius was not so easily fooled. He came home late that night, smelling faintly of cheap beer and cologne. Monica was folding laundry in the living room when he dropped into the recliner, phone buzzing in his hand. "Ma," he said casually, "who's this guy you've been talking to?" The question stopped her cold. "What are you talking about?" "I heard," he said, eyes narrowing. "Some old rich dude from the diner, folks talk, saw you sitting with him last week." Monica's chest tightened. The town was small, eyes were everywhere. "He's a friend," she said carefully. "A friend," Darius snorted. "Since when you got time for friends? You work, you come home. That's it, unless." His voice lowered, tinged with accusation. "Unless he's giving you something." Monica felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Don't you dare." "I'm just saying," Darius pressed. "You out here struggling and some guy in a suit shows up out of nowhere. What's he buying, Ma? What's he getting in return?" The words cut deeper than he knew. For years, Monica had given everything for free, for love, for family. Now her own son, the boy she had carried through fevers and heartbreak, was questioning her dignity. "You watch your mouth," she said sharply. "Mr. Caldwell has shown me nothing but respect." Darius leaned back, smirking. "Respect don't pay bills. Money does, so if he's offering, why don't you share? I could use some help." Monica's hands trembled as she folded a shirt. "It's not for you, Darius. It's for Aaliyah, for her education." The smirk vanished, his eyes darkened. "So that's how it is, everything for her, nothing for me." She's trying, son, Monica pleaded. She's working hard. She wants a future. Don't you want that for your sister? I want a future too, he shouted. But you'd rather hand it to her than help me get back on my feet. You've had chances, Monica whispered. More than I can count, and I gave them all to you, but you keep throwing them away. Silence fell heavy. For a moment, Darius looked almost wounded, like a boy scolded by his teacher. Then his jaw tightened. He grabbed his phone and stormed out, the door slamming so hard the walls shook. Later that night, Aaliyah found Monica sitting on the porch, her face buried in her hands. "Mama?" she asked softly. Monica looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. "He thinks I betrayed him." Aaliyah sat beside her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "No, Mama, he betrayed you. He's been taking and taking, and now he's mad someone finally wants to give you something." Monica leaned into her daughter's embrace. The night air was cool, the crickets loud in the yard. For the first time, she realized how divided her children had become, one a weight pulling her down, the other a light pulling her forward. And she stood in the middle, torn apart. Sunday brought no peace. At church, whispers followed her. She could feel them pricking the back of her neck as she walked to her pew. People had seen Richard Caldwell too, had drawn their own conclusions. Some looked with curiosity, others with judgment. After service, Sister Maybelline leaned close. "Monica, honey, I heard about that gentleman friend of yours. You be careful now. Folks like him don't just hand out blessings without expecting something back." Monica forced a polite smile, but her stomach churned. By the time she got home, Darius was waiting at the kitchen table, arms folded, eyes hard. "You embarrassed me," he said. "Embarrassed you?" Monica blinked. "People talking, saying my mama's getting handouts from some white millionaire, like we can't stand on our own." Monica slammed her purse onto the counter. "You don't stand at all, Darius. You lean on me, on your sister, on anyone who will let you, and I'm tired of it." The words came out sharper than she intended, but once spoken, they couldn't be taken back. Darius's face twisted with fury. "You'll regret this," he muttered, storming toward the door. Monica's voice shook, but she didn't stop him. "The only thing I regret," she called after him, "is raising a son who thinks love is just another bill to collect." The door slammed. Silence swallowed the house. That night, Monica sat with Aaliyah at the kitchen table, papers spread between them, college brochures, financial aid forms, unpaid bills. "Mama," Aaliyah said gently, "if Mr. Caldwell really wants to help, maybe we should let him." Monica stared at her daughter, at the hope flickering in her eyes. She thought of Darius's accusations, the church whispers, the gnawing pride inside her. Then she thought of Aaliyah's future, the door waiting to be opened. Maybe, Monica realized, strength wasn't just about enduring storms. Maybe it was about choosing which ones were worth standing in. The days that followed were restless ones. Darius disappeared for long stretches, returning only when the fridge was full or when he needed something. Monica stopped asking where he went. Questions were wasted breath. She had learned that silence sometimes protected her more than words, but silence did not ease her unease. She noticed small things, envelopes missing from the mail stack, papers shifted on her desk, the drawer in her bedroom not closing the way it used to. She told herself she was imagining it, that grief and exhaustion were making her suspicious of her own son. But deep down, she knew better. One evening, while folding laundry, Monica caught Aaliyah's worried gaze. "What is it, baby?" she asked. Aaliyah hesitated, then said, "I think Darius has been looking through your stuff." Monica's chest tightened. "What stuff?" "My financial aid papers," Aaliyah said quietly. "And the folder with Daddy's death certificate. I found it on the table this morning. I didn't leave it there." The laundry slipped from Monica's hands. She had locked that folder away for years, a small drawer under her bed where she kept the most painful documents. "Are you sure?" she whispered. Aaliyah nodded. "Mama, he's up to something." It wasn't long before Monica's suspicions were confirmed. On a Tuesday afternoon, while finishing her shift at the nursing home, she received a call from the bank. The voice on the other end was polite but uncertain. "Mrs. Harris," the clerk said, "we just wanted to verify some recent documents filed on your behalf." Monica frowned. "Documents?" "Yes, a request to transfer authority on your account. A medical note was included stating you've been struggling with memory loss. We wanted to make sure." The blood drained from her face. "Memory loss? That's not true." There was a pause on the line. "So you didn't submit these papers?" "No," Monica said firmly. "Absolutely not." "Then I believe we need to meet in person, Mrs. Harris. We can hold the documents until you arrive." She hung up, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the phone. That evening, she sat at the kitchen table staring at the folder the bank clerk had handed her. Inside were papers that chilled her blood. A forged letter, supposedly from her doctor, claiming early-stage dementia. A power of attorney form, filled out in her name but signed in shaky handwriting that wasn't hers. And at the bottom, in bold ink, the signature of one man, Darius Harris. For a long moment, Monica couldn't breathe. She thought of the boy she had raised, the one who used to cry when she patched his scraped knees, the one who once promised to take care of Mama forever. And now here it was, in black and white, her own son declaring her unfit to manage her life. Her first instinct was to cry, but no tears came. Instead, a slow, steady anger settled inside her bones, heavier than grief, sharper than fear. When Darius returned that night, Monica confronted him. He walked into the kitchen, humming to himself until he saw the folder on the table. His face froze. "What's this?" Monica asked, her voice quiet but cutting. He swallowed. "Ma, I can explain. Explain why my bank called me today. Explain why your name is on forged papers." Darius rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding her eyes. "I was just trying to help. You work yourself to death, Ma. You forget things sometimes. I thought." "Forget things?" she snapped. "I've been keeping this house together by memory alone. The bills, the debts, the late fees, do you think any of it pays itself?" "Mama, listen," he pleaded. "If I had control, I could make things easier. For both of us. For Aaliyah, too. I was just what?" Monica's voice cracked like a whip. "Stealing from your own mother? Burying me before I'm dead?" His jaw tightened. "I wouldn't call it stealing. I'd call it surviving." Monica stood, her hands trembling but her voice steady. "No, son, surviving is what I've been doing for 20 years. You've been scheming." For a moment, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Shame, maybe. But it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by defiance. "You don't understand," he muttered. "This was for all of us." Monica shook her head slowly. "No, Darius, this was for you. Always for you." When he stormed out again, the house felt colder than it ever had. Aaliyah came down from her room, her face pale when she saw the papers. She didn't ask questions, she didn't need to. "Mama," she whispered, "what are we going to do?" Monica gathered the papers into the folder, her hands steadier than she expected. "We're going to fight," she said. It was the first time in years she had spoken those words not as a weary mother, but as a woman who finally understood the difference between sacrifice and surrender. And in that moment, Monica Harris knew. The cracks in her family had widened into a fault line. And if she didn't act soon, everything she had built, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, would be swallowed whole. The folder from the bank sat on the dining table for 3 days, untouched but never ignored. Every time Monica passed by, the sight of it cut her like broken glass. She would carry laundry across the room or set down groceries, and there it was, waiting. Proof that her son, her flesh and blood, had written her out of her own life. On the third evening, Monica could no longer bear the weight of silence. She pulled the folder open and spread the papers across the table. The forged doctor's letter, the false power of attorney. Her late husband's name scribbled like a weapon. She stared at them until her vision blurred. Then, slowly, she went to the bedroom and unlocked the bottom drawer of her dresser. Inside were the records she had kept through the years: check stubs, money orders, canceled payments, crumpled receipts with her handwriting scrawled in the corners. She had saved them not out of mistrust, but out of habit. A trail of sacrifice, preserved like pressed flowers. She carried them back to the dining room and began to lay them out, one by one. There was the first check she had ever written for Darius after James died, $120 for a car payment. He had promised it was a one-time thing, just until he got steady hours at the warehouse. Then another, $75 for new shoes for work. Then $400 for rent after he'd been evicted. $200 for a hospital bill when he didn't have insurance. Hundreds more for groceries, gas, phone bills. As Monica listed them, the numbers began to pile up, rising like a tide. She took out a notepad and started writing, her pen pressing hard against the paper. Line by line, she recorded every dollar that had left her hands for her son. By midnight, she had totaled it. The sum made her chest tighten, over $60,000 in less than 5 years. And that didn't even include the little things: the groceries slipped into his trunk, the cash folded into his palm just until Friday, the bills she quietly paid to keep his lights on. Monica leaned back, staring at the mountain of evidence before her. It wasn't just money. It was years. It was blood and bone. It was her life, converted into figures on paper. And what had Darius done in return? Forged her name, tried to erase her voice. The betrayal stung worse than the debt. She didn't hear Aaliyah come down the stairs until her daughter stood at the doorway, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. "Mama," Aaliyah whispered, eyes wide at the papers covering the table. "What is all this?" Monica swallowed hard. "This is what I've given your brother." Aaliyah stepped closer, scanning the checks, the notes, her jaw tightened. "It's everything, Mama. You've given him everything." Monica nodded, her throat too tight for words. For a long moment, they stood together in silence, the kitchen clock ticking. Then Aaliyah whispered, "Why did you keep helping him?" Monica let out a shaky breath. "Because he was my son. Because every time he asked, I thought maybe this is the last time. Maybe this will be the thing that sets him straight. And because I wanted to believe love could change him." Aaliyah's voice trembled, but it didn't. Monica closed her eyes. "No, baby, it didn't." When morning came, Monica did something she had never done before. She left the pile on the table in plain sight and waited. Darius stumbled in around noon, rubbing his eyes. He froze when he saw the spread of papers. "What's this?" he asked, voice already defensive. Monica sat at the head of the table, her hands folded. "This," she said quietly, "is my life, laid out in dollars and cents, every sacrifice I made for you." Darius glanced at the notepad with the total at the bottom. He scoffed. "So what, you keeping score now?" Monica's voice rose, steady and sharp. "I kept score because I needed to see it for myself. I needed to understand what all these years have cost me." He shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting. "I didn't ask you to write it all down." "No," Monica said, her voice breaking. "You just asked me to give, and I did, again and again, until there was nothing left of me but receipts." For the first time, Darius's face softened, the arrogance slipping. He looked almost like the boy she used to know, but the moment passed quickly, swallowed by a sneer. "You're acting like you didn't choose this," he muttered. "Nobody forced you. You gave because you wanted to." Monica's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, I gave because I loved you, but love was never meant to be stolen. And you," she tapped the forged papers with her finger, "you crossed a line I can never uncross." The words echoed in the kitchen. Darius opened his mouth, then shut it again. He grabbed his jacket from the chair, muttered something under his breath, and slammed the door behind him. When the house grew quiet again, Monica sat back at the table, her hands trembling. The papers blurred before her eyes, but this time she didn't cry. She simply whispered, "Enough." It was the first time in her life she had said the word out loud, and she meant it. The word "enough" did not fade after Monica whispered it. It lingered in the walls of the house, in the stack of papers on the table, in the quiet ache of her chest. It was not a cry of surrender, it was the first spark of defiance. The next morning, Monica dialed a number she hadn't used in years. Angela Brooks, attorney-at-law, came the firm voice on the other end. Monica cleared her throat. "Ms. Brooks, I don't know if you remember me. Monica Harris. My husband, James, worked with you when we drew up our first will years ago." There was a pause, then warmth softened Angela's tone. "Of course I remember, Mrs. Harris. How are you?" Monica closed her eyes. "Not well, I need help, legal help." Angela didn't ask for details on the phone. "Come to my office this afternoon. We'll make time." Angela Brooks's office was on the second floor of a small brick building near downtown. The waiting room smelled faintly of lemon polish and old law books. Monica sat clutching her purse, her palms damp, until Angela appeared in the doorway. She hadn't changed much, still tall, with sharp eyes and a voice that carried authority without effort. "Monica," she said, extending her hand. "Come in." Inside the office, Monica spread the forged papers across the desk, her fingers trembling. "My son did this," she whispered. Angela scanned the documents quickly, her brows knitting. Forged signatures, fake doctor's letter. "This is serious, Monica. He tried to strip you of your rights." "I know." Angela leaned forward. "Do you want to press charges?" Monica's throat tightened. "He's my son, I don't, at least not yet, but I want protection. I want to make sure he can never do this again." Angela nodded. "Then here's what we'll do. First, revoke any power of attorney you may have given him in the past. Second, restructure your estate, remove him from all beneficiary designations. And third, we'll secure a trust for Aaliyah, something untouchable." The words were heavy, final. Monica felt them settle in her bones. A trust? Yes, a legal shield. He can't touch it. He can't challenge it without showing his hand. For the first time in weeks, Monica felt the faintest flicker of safety. When she left the office, she found Richard Caldwell waiting outside, leaning against his silver sedan. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, surprised, "what are you doing here?" He smiled faintly. "Angela and I go back a long way. I asked her to keep me posted, discreetly. I didn't mean to intrude." Monica blinked. "You knew I'd come?" "I hoped you would," Richard admitted. "A strong woman recognizes when she needs reinforcements." She wanted to argue, to insist she could handle her battles alone, but the truth was carved into her weary body. Reinforcements were no longer a luxury, they were a necessity. Richard stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Let me cover the legal costs. Consider it an investment in Aaliyah's future. No strings, I promise." Monica hesitated, pride warring with desperation. She thought of Aaliyah's bright eyes, of the tuition bills already creeping onto the counter, of Darius's betrayals stacking higher and higher. Finally, she nodded. "All right, but not for me, for her." Richard's smile was gentle. "For her, then?" That evening, Monica told Aaliyah everything about the forged papers, about the lawyer, about the trust. Her daughter listened in stunned silence, then reached across the table and took her hand. "Mama," she whispered, "you're finally protecting yourself." Monica's eyes filled. "I should have done it years ago." "You're doing it now," Aaliyah said firmly. "That's what matters." But peace didn't last. By the weekend, Darius came storming into the house, waving a letter he'd intercepted from the bank. His face was flushed, his voice sharp. "What's this, Ma? You blocked me from your accounts? You went to a lawyer." Monica rose slowly from the table, her shoulders squared. "Yes, I did." His jaw dropped. "You're really gonna cut me out like that? Your own son?" "You cut yourself out, Darius," Monica said evenly. "I'm just making it official." The fury in his eyes frightened her, but she didn't flinch. Not this time. "Fine," he spat. "If you think you can do this without me, go ahead. But don't come crying when that old man and his lawyer take you for everything you've got." He slammed the door so hard the window panes rattled. Monica stood in the silence, her heart pounding. But beneath the fear, there was a new foundation, something stronger than anger or grief. Resolve. For the first time, Monica Harris was not just surviving. She was fighting back. The week after Monica changed her legal papers, the whispers began. It started at church, where the pews were filled not only with prayer but with gossip that clung like smoke. Monica noticed the glances first, quick, sidelong looks as she walked to her seat. Conversations hushed when she passed. Smiles were thinner, less genuine. After service, Sister Maybelline, who had once brought casseroles to Monica's doorstep after James's funeral, took her hand with a too-tight grip. "Monica, I heard some things," she said in a syrupy voice. "About your health. People are worried, you know. They say you've been confused lately." Monica stiffened. "Confused?" Maybelline patted her hand, her eyes glinting. "Your son mentioned it. Just concerned, that's all. You know how he loves you." Monica withdrew her hand, her chest burning. She wanted to shout, "My son forged my name. My son tried to steal my life." But the words caught in her throat. Pride, shame, and sorrow tangled together until she could only manage. "Thank you for your concern." By Wednesday, the rumors had traveled beyond church. At the grocery store, a cashier she'd known for years hesitated before giving her change. "Everything all right, Ms. Harris?" The young woman asked carefully, as if speaking to a fragile patient. And at the nursing home, one of her co-workers pulled her aside. "Monica, I don't mean to pry, but folks are saying you're having trouble remembering things. Maybe you should see a doctor." Monica clenched her jaw, fighting back humiliation. She had spent decades keeping her mind sharp, balancing 2 jobs, managing bills, remembering every birthday and appointment. And now, because of her son's lies, the world looked at her as if she were fading. At home, she sat at the kitchen table with her head in her hands. Aaliyah found her there, the light from her laptop casting a glow on her mother's face. "They're talking, aren't they?" Aaliyah asked softly. Monica nodded. "Your brother's been busy." Aaliyah's hands curled into fists. "He's poisoning people against you. Mama, we can't let him win." Monica lifted her eyes, tired but steady. "We won't. Truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand." The next Sunday, Monica decided to face the whispers head-on. She walked into church with her chin high, wearing her best blue dress and James's old cross around her neck. Aaliyah walked beside her, a silent shield. During fellowship, Evelyn appeared, gliding through the crowd with practiced grace. Darius's fiancé wore her ambition like perfume, sweet at first, but suffocating if you lingered too long. "Monica," Evelyn said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We should talk." "I have nothing to say to you," Monica replied calmly. Evelyn leaned closer, her voice low but sharp. "People believe us, you know, about your memory. About Richard Caldwell. They see what we tell them to see, and when the time comes, the court will see it too." Monica met her gaze without flinching. "You can twist stories, Evelyn, but you can't erase the truth." Evelyn's smile faltered. For a split second, Monica glimpsed the steel beneath the silk, then Evelyn straightened, smoothing her dress. "We'll see." That night the phone rang. It was Pastor Green, his voice gentle. "Sister Harris, I've been hearing things, troubling things. Your son says you're not well. Is there truth to it?" Monica closed her eyes. "Pastor, I am not sick. I am not senile. My son is angry because I stopped giving him everything. That's the truth." There was silence on the line. Then the pastor sighed. "I'll pray for peace in your family." When she hung up, Monica felt both relief and despair. Prayer was welcome, but prayer alone would not protect her from the lies that grew like weeds in her garden. The turning point came when Aaliyah stormed into the house after school, her face flushed. "Daddy told Aunt Carol you tried to close your own account and forgot halfway through," she blurted, slamming her backpack down. "He said the bank manager had to walk you out because you didn't know where you were." Monica's breath caught. "He said that?" Aaliyah nodded, eyes glistening with anger. "Mama, people think you're losing your mind, but I told them the truth. I told them you're the strongest woman I know. If you forget anything, it's only because you're tired of remembering for everyone else. Monica stared at her daughter, pride swelling in her chest. For the first time in days, her eyes filled not with shame, but with something softer. "Thank you, baby," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." Later that night, Monica stood at the window, watching the streetlights flicker. The rumors pressed in like shadows, but she realized something vital. Shadows only exist where there is light. And as long as she had Aaliyah, as long as she held her truth, no whisper could erase her. By the end of the week, Monica knew silence was no longer enough. Silence had protected her for years, through James's illness, through Darius's failures, through the countless nights when she swallowed pain so her children wouldn't see her cry. But silence now was a weapon in her enemy's hands. If Darius and Evelyn wanted to paint her as weak, as confused, as incapable, she could not hide in the shadows and let them write her story. On Friday morning, she walked into the community center, the same building where she used to watch Aaliyah's spelling bees and where James once coached youth basketball. The receptionist, a young woman with kind eyes, looked up. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Monica smoothed the front of her coat. "I'd like to reserve the meeting room, Wednesday evening." For what purpose? Monica took a deep breath. A reading, a testimony, a story that needs to be told. The receptionist blinked but nodded, typing quickly. "We'll put you down." When Monica left, her heart pounded, not with fear but with determination. Over the weekend, she printed flyers on her old home printer, black ink smudging at the edges. Wednesday, 7 p.m., a personal account by Monica Harris, open to all. She slipped them onto bulletin boards at the coffee shop, the laundromat, even at the church where the whispers had started. Aaliyah watched her, concern etched on her face. "Mama, are you sure? People might twist this too." Monica looked at her daughter with steady eyes. "Baby, they've already twisted everything. Now it's time I straighten it." Wednesday came. The meeting room filled slowly, neighbors, church members, co-workers from the nursing home. Some curious, some skeptical, a few sympathetic. Monica's palms sweated, but when she saw Aaliyah slip into the front row, her chin lifted. At the back of the room, Evelyn stood with arms folded, her lips pressed thin. Darius wasn't there. Monica hadn't expected him to be. He never showed up unless there was something to take. When the room grew quiet, Monica stepped to the small podium. No microphone, no spotlight, just her voice. "My name is Monica Harris," she began, her voice trembling only slightly. "I've lived in this town all my life. I raised 2 children here. I buried my husband here. I've worked 2 jobs, paid my bills, and kept my dignity intact. But lately, some of you have heard stories that I'm sick, that I'm confused, that I can't take care of myself." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Monica raised her hand. "I am here tonight to tell you the truth. My son, Darius, forged papers to try and take my money, my name, my life. He told people I was losing my memory so he could gain control. He told lies so smoothly that some of you believed him, but I am not losing my mind. I am losing my patience." The room stilled. She reached into her bag and held up the forged documents. This is what betrayal looks like. It has signatures, stamps, and letters that aren't real. And it has a name written on the bottom, my son's. I wish this wasn't true, but it is. A few gasps, a few heads bowed. Monica set the papers down. "I am not here to ask for pity. I am here to reclaim my voice. To remind you that older women are not invisible. We are not fragile. We are not burdens to be managed. We are mothers, workers, believers, and we deserve to be heard." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "I gave my son everything, money, time, forgiveness, and he repaid me with betrayal, but I will not let him write the ending to my story. I will write it myself, and tonight you are witnesses." The silence afterward was heavy, not with doubt but with respect. For once, no one whispered. They simply listened. When she stepped away from the podium, people began to rise. Some hugged her, some shook her hand. Others just nodded, eyes glistening. Aaliyah was the last to reach her. She wrapped her arms around her mother tightly. "You looked taller tonight," she whispered. Monica smiled through her tears. "That's what happens when you stop bowing to shame." At the back of the room, Evelyn slipped out quietly, her face pale. The battle wasn't over, Monica knew that, but for the first time, the truth had been spoken aloud. And once truth is set free, it cannot be put back in the dark. The morning after the meeting at the community center, the air in Monica's house felt different. Lighter, somehow. As if by speaking her truth aloud, she had opened the windows of her soul and let the stale air out. She made coffee and sipped it slowly, savoring the warmth in her hands. For once, she didn't rush. For once, she allowed herself the small luxury of peace. But peace never lasted long where Darius was concerned. At 9:00 a.m., she heard the crunch of tires on gravel. She looked out the window and saw his car pull into the driveway, sleek, gray, far too new for someone who claimed to be broke. Her stomach tightened. She didn't move as he climbed the porch steps, smoothed his jacket, and knocked. Not the hesitant knock of a son visiting his mother. A hard, deliberate rhythm meant to announce control. She opened the door, standing in the frame. "Mom," Darius said, his tone practiced, calm. "You won't answer my calls." "No," she replied evenly. He nodded once as if confirming something. "Then I figured I'd come in person. We need to talk." Monica stepped aside just enough for him to enter, though every instinct told her not to. He walked into the living room, his shoulders squared like a man heading into a boardroom. "I heard about your little performance last night," he said. "It wasn't a performance," Monica answered. "It was the truth." He scoffed. "You embarrass me. You embarrassed this family." Monica folded her arms. "You embarrassed yourself, Darius. I just stopped covering it up." His jaw tightened. "You think you're clever, dragging my name through the mud in front of everyone? You think you can just cut me out of your will, out of your accounts, like I don't exist? You did that yourself," she said quietly. He stepped closer, anger flashing in his eyes. "I needed help. That's all I ever wanted from the start. But you wouldn't listen. You'd rather play hero for Aaliyah and that rich white man than take care of your own son." Monica's voice was calm but sharp. "I did take care of you, for years. I gave you more than I had, and when that wasn't enough, you tried to steal the rest." His mouth opened, but no words came. He turned away, pacing. The room crackled with tension. Finally, he spun back toward her. "You're gonna regret this. People are already talking. They think you've lost it. They think you're being manipulated. Evelyn and I will prove it. We'll take you to court if we have to." Monica stood her ground. "Do what you must, but remember this, a lie may travel fast, but the truth doesn't tire. It will outlast you." For a moment, the mask slipped. Hurt flickered across his face, raw and unguarded. "I just wanted you to trust me," he muttered. Monica's chest ached, but she did not waver. "Trust is not something you forge with a pen, Darius. It's something you earn, and you've spent every dollar of it." He flinched as if struck. Then, with a shake of his head, he stormed toward the door. Before leaving, he turned once more. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "She'll regret it, you know, Aaliyah, when the money ruins her." Monica's eyes blazed. "No, she'll thrive because she has what you never wanted, freedom, and because she knows love is not a transaction." Darius stared at her, silent, then left. The door closed behind him with a soft finality, not a slam. Monica stood alone in the quiet, her heart pounding, her hands trembling. And yet, beneath the fear, a strange relief washed over her. For the first time, she had faced her son not as a desperate mother clinging to hope, but as a woman reclaiming her dignity. The confrontation had not broken her. It had made her taller. The house was quiet after Darius left. Too quiet. Not the uneasy hush of shame or the heavy silence of grief, but something new, something Monica had never felt before. Resolve. She walked back into the living room, looked at the table where the papers still sat. The trust documents Angela had prepared, the revised will, the folder of canceled checks and old receipts. For years, she had carried them as burdens. Tonight, they felt like proof. Proof that she had survived, that she had given all she could, and that now she was choosing differently. That evening, Aaliyah came home from class, her backpack slung over her shoulder, her eyes searching her mother's face. "Was he here again?" she asked. Monica nodded. "Yes, he tried one last time, but it's finished now." Aaliyah dropped her bag and rushed forward, wrapping her arms around her mother. Monica held her tightly, pressing her cheek against her daughter's hair. "I'm proud of you, Mama," Aaliyah whispered, "for finally choosing yourself." Monica's throat tightened. "I chose you, baby. That's what this was always about." The following week, Angela called to confirm. The trust was finalized, secured, legally binding. Aaliyah would have funds for tuition, for living expenses, for a future that didn't start with debt or desperation. Richard met Monica for coffee the next day, sliding into the booth across from her with his usual calm smile. "It's done," he said simply. Monica exhaled. "For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe." Richard nodded. "You gave your daughter a foundation. That's what legacy really means." Monica studied him for a moment. "Why did you help me, Richard? Truly?" His eyes softened. "Because strength deserves to be honored, Monica, and because sometimes the strongest people are the ones who never ask." She smiled faintly. For years she had believed that asking for help was weakness. Now she understood. It was faith. Faith that kindness still existed, that not every hand reaching out wanted to take something away. That night, Monica sat at the kitchen table with Aaliyah. They ate simple food, grilled cheese sandwiches, tomato soup, laughing between bites as if the weight of the past had finally lifted. After dinner, Monica pulled out her notebook, the one filled with years of sacrifices and debts. She flipped to the last page and wrote in steady letters, "What I still have, a daughter who loves me, a home that is mine, a name that cannot be stolen, a future that belongs to us, not to fear." She closed the notebook and placed it back in the drawer. For the first time, she didn't feel like a woman surviving day by day. She felt like a woman who had chosen her ending. On Sunday morning, Monica and Aaliyah walked to church together. Heads still turned, whispers still flickered, but Monica held her head high. She had nothing left to prove. At the end of the service, Pastor Green offered a prayer for families fractured and mended, for mothers who carried too much, for children still finding their way. Monica bowed her head, not for Darius's lies or Evelyn's schemes, but for her own peace, because she knew now she could not save a son who didn't want saving, but she could honor the love that still lived, bright and true, in her daughter. As autumn deepened, the maple trees on Cedar Street shed their leaves. Monica sat on the porch one evening, a shawl draped over her shoulders, watching the wind scatter gold and red across the yard. Aaliyah sat beside her, books in her lap, humming softly. Monica breathed in the crisp air. Her son was gone, maybe forever, but her daughter was here. Her dignity was here. Her story was hers again. And that, at last, was enough. Dear readers, thank you for walking with Monica through her journey, through grief, betrayal, and finally, renewal. This story is not just about loss, but about the courage to reclaim one's voice and to pass on a legacy of love rather than silence. I wish you health, peace, and families filled with understanding and compassion. Hold tightly to those who love you truly, and never be afraid to choose yourself when the world tries to take that choice away. With gratitude, the author.